Most people believe wealth begins with money, a high salary, a lucky investment, a head start they never had. But history tells a quieter, more uncomfortable story. Some of the most financially secure people alive today didn't start with capital at all. They started with something far less visible, an understanding of how money actually works. And once you understand that truth, money stops being the barrier everyone thinks it is. In this video, we'll explore the untold mechanics of wealth, how money is created, why most people struggle to keep it, and how individuals with nothing but time and discipline slowly build financial freedom. We'll break down the psychological traps, the structural realities, and the long-term strategies that matter far more than income, luck, or background. This isn't a story about getting rich fast. It's about understanding money deeply enough that it starts working for you. Let's start with the biggest misconception about money. Money is often treated like the goal, but in reality, money is a tool, and tools are only powerful in skilled hands. Two people can earn the same income and end up in completely different financial positions. One builds security, the other builds stress. The difference isn't intelligence, it's understanding. Wealth doesn't begin with how much you earn. It begins with how you think about what you earn. Here's where it gets interesting. Income is not wealth. According to data frequently discussed by economists and financial researchers, millions of high-income earners live paycheck to paycheck. Meanwhile, some individuals with modest incomes quietly accumulate assets over decades. Why? Because income is temporary. Wealth is what remains. Wealth is built in the gap between what you earn and what you keep, and what you do with what you keep. This gap is where most financial stories are decided. The first invisible asset? Time. If you are starting from nothing, time is your most valuable resource. Not money, not connections, time. Compound growth doesn't require large amounts of capital. It requires duration. A small, consistent investment made early often outperforms a large investment made late. This is why financial educators repeatedly emphasize starting early. Not because it's exciting, but because mathematics quietly rewards patience. Time turns small decisions into large outcomes. Why spending feels good, and building wealth doesn't. Human psychology works against long-term wealth. Spending delivers immediate pleasure. Saving and investing deliver delayed rewards. The brain is wired to prioritize now over later. This is why consumer culture thrives, and why most people struggle financially even when they earn more. Building wealth feels boring at first. It lacks emotional payoff. But boredom, in finance, is often a sign you're doing something right. Let's talk about leverage, but not the risky kind. When most people hear leverage, they think of debt. But the most powerful leverage available to someone starting from nothing isn't borrowed money. It's skills. Skills scale income without scaling time. They create optionality. They allow you to earn more without working more hours. Coding, sales, writing, design, marketing, analysis. These are skills that compound, not unlike investments. The earlier you acquire them, the longer they work on your behalf. But there's a twist. Skills alone aren't enough. Many skilled people still struggle financially. Why? Because income without structure leaks. This is where systems matter. Automated saving, automated investing, clear spending boundaries. Wealth isn't built through constant decision-making. It's built by removing decisions altogether. The less willpower required, the more consistent the outcome. Ownership is the dividing line. At some point, wealth building shifts from earning to owning. Owners earn while they sleep. Workers earn while they work. This doesn't require starting a company or taking extreme risks. Ownership can be gradual. Index funds, businesses, royalties, intellectual property, real assets. The key isn't complexity, it's participation. When you own assets, you benefit from economic growth rather than racing against it. Why debt traps people, but assets free them? Debt isn't inherently bad. But consumer debt pulls future income into the present while producing no long-term value. Assets do the opposite. They sacrifice the present to strengthen the future. This trade-off is subtle, and it's why wealth often looks unimpressive in its early stages. But over time, the difference becomes impossible to ignore. Here's where most people give up. Wealth building is slow in the beginning, painfully slow. The first $10,000 feels impossible. The first $100,000 feels distant. Progress feels invisible. This is the most dangerous phase, not because it's hard, but because it feels pointless. But this is also where momentum quietly forms. Compounding doesn't announce itself. It reveals itself later. The role of risk and why it's misunderstood. Building wealth from nothing requires some risk, but not reckless risk. Calculated risk, asymmetric risk. Risk where the downside is survivable, but the upside is meaningful. Learning skills, starting small ventures, investing consistently. The biggest risk isn't failure, it's stagnation. Why comparison destroys financial progress. In the age of social media, wealth is constantly displayed, but rarely explained. People compare outcomes without seeing timelines, results without process. This distorts expectations. True wealth often looks ordinary for a long time. By the time it becomes visible, the work has already been done. Comparison steals patience, and patience is the currency of wealth. The quiet role of behavior. According to long-term financial studies often referenced by major finance educators, behavior explains more financial outcomes than intelligence. Consistency beats brilliance. Discipline beats insight. Time beats timing. Wealth is less about knowing something special and more about repeating simple actions long enough. When you strip away the myths, the untold truth about money becomes surprisingly simple. Wealth is not reserved for the lucky or the privileged. It's built by those who understand time, behavior, and ownership. It grows quietly, it rewards patience, and it punishes urgency. Starting from nothing isn't a disadvantage. It's clarity. There's less to protect, less to maintain, more room to build deliberately. In the end, money is not the starting point of wealth. Understanding is. And once that understanding takes root, wealth becomes less about chance and more about inevitability. If you found this exploration valuable, consider subscribing for more calm, cinematic stories about money, behavior, and the systems that quietly shape our financial lives. This is Cold Insight. Thanks for listening.